What's up, guys? So welcome to this exciting series where we'll be building a modern personal portfolio website from scratch using React and TailwindCSS. So if you have ever wanted to create a sleek, responsive and professional portfolio to showcase your work, then this video is for you. So let's see a quick preview of what we'll be building. You can see that we'll have this nice header section, and if I scroll down, you can see we have this backdrop effect, more like a glass morphism effect, and watch as this line moves to the next link. So if we scroll to the next section, which is press section, you can see that it's now active and it works for all the sections. And if I click on this live, people can see your website live on a new tab, as well as your source code if you have it opened. Then you can come to this about section, and we have this little transition effect on my skill section. And for the contact me section, we'll be hooking it up with netlify, so I can just add some details right here, and I can add this one and add some gibberish. So if I say send message, you'll see that get this pop-up saying our form submission has been received, and you can also confirm it with your email. So you can see the name of the website, you can confirm it, then the message of the person, as well as the email of the sender and their name. And again, if I change this to mobile, you can see that it's responsive for mobile screen as well. So it's really nice. So for the tools and setup, we'll be using Vite for fast development, TailwindCSS for styling, Lucid icons for the icons we'll be using, and at the end of everything, we'll be deploying our project on netlify. And this is the part one of this video, which means we'll be focusing on the introduction and the setup, and I'll try to be releasing videos very often. So I'll start releasing videos every Tuesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any part. And the full source code will be available for free at the end of the series. However, if you need early access, you can get it for a small fee via the first link in the description. And there will also be a link for you to be able to access the images and have access to the data that I'll be using for free. With that being said, let's dive right into the video. Alright, so I have VS Code open with an empty folder called React Portfolio YT. So you can create an empty folder and open it on VS Code or whatever code editor you use. So the next thing to do is to open our terminal. I can use Ctrl J, or you can use Ctrl tilde. We still open it right here, and we want to install Vite. So we can do that by saying npm create Vite at latest. Then we use this period sign so that we can create the project on our current folder. So say yes, and for the framework we'll select React. For the variant we'll use JavaScript, and now we just run npm I to install all our dependencies that I'll be needing. So this might take a while, and I will join you shortly once it's done installing. Alright, so all our packages has been installed, so I can clear my screen by saying cls, and we want to install Tailwind. So I will go back to my browser and I'll go to the Tailwind's documentation, and Tailwind has just released their version 4. So they made quite some changes in terms of the installation process. So you no longer need the tailwind.config file. So in case if you're watching this in the future, this might change, but so far the tailwind.config file is no longer needed and is now being packed or bundled inside the Vite config file as a plugin, as you can see right here. So I think the default one is using Vite, so we'll just go with this. So I'll copy this command right here and I'll paste it. So that has been installed. I'll clear my screen, and apart from them bringing this TailwindCSS/Vite plugin, there were also some changes and best practices that they brought as well. So during the course of this series, I'm going to show you most of them. So the next thing to do is to add it to our Vite plugin. So can just copy this, go back and go to our feed config, paste this right here, and just copy this one. And I'll add a comma here and paste it right. So except that didn't copy, so I'll do it manually. So I'll quickly save the file. And while we are there, we'll change the port as well. So I can say server and port will be port 3000. So the port is 5173 port, just like using port 3000. All right, cool. So we can go back and keep up with the doc. So we can now import the Tailwind, just this Tailwind CSS plugin right now. So I'll go to my source folder. Let me close this out. Then we'll just quickly do a cleanup. So I'll get rid of this app.css. We no longer need it. For the app.jss, I will get rid of everything, and I'll say RAFCE. So this is like a code snippet, and you can get it on the extension by looking for ES7 code snippets. So it's this one right here, ES7 plus React / Redux code snippets. All right, so for the index.css file, we'll get rid of everything and paste in this import statement. So now ignore this tailwind base. We no longer need it anymore because everything is being packed inside this tailwind CSS plugin. So all the configurations now will be done in the index.css file, which is actually quite nice because I really don't know why we had to do like configuration in the tailwind file, then still linking it back to an index.css. That being said, let's just go back and we can now start our dev server. So I can say npm run dev, grab this link, and I will come right here and just paste it and take it to this part. All right, cool. So the thing we just clicking it, as you can see right now. And so if I just go to the app and I say class name should be like a text of like orange. Is that an orange color? So let me try orange. Yeah, you can see it's coming in. In case yours is not auto-completing, what you just have to do is you just have to control shift P and reload your window. So with this now, it doesn't stop the server from running. The server is still running, but you're just reloading the window. I think it's a caching issue from VS Code. But with this now, we can now have autocomplete. So now if I try it again, so if I do this and say Ctrl space bar, you can see now I have options to actually decide the color I want. So the next thing we want to do is to bring in the font. So the way to use font on the new version, I can just go to font quickly. So font family, and as you can see, this is how it's being used. So let me scroll down. I'll just save you this threads. Right, being used. So everything now is being done in this theme property, be it your colors, your breakpoint, your font size, your font weight. Everything is done in this theme property. So the font we'll be using will be from the Google font. So I will just copy this and make sure you put it before the Tailwind CSS import. So go to our index of CSS and before it, to paste it right here. I'll be using poppins, so I'll change this to poppins, and that is all. Then I will copy this now and I'll paste it right here. So I'll just call this one fonts, and you can see fonts, poppins, then this should be poppins. All right, so while we are there, we'll also bring in the breakpoints that we'll be needing. So Tailwind gives you nice breakpoints, but personally, I'm not really comfortable with the breakpoints, so I will specify what I want. So to do that, you just have to follow this variable structure. I can accept this, and I could say 36 rem. I don't use pixels, so I will duplicate this 3 more times. So 1 2 3, and I did this by holding shift alt and the down arrow key. So this will be 48 rem, this will be 64 rem, and this will be 68.75 rem. Should be point. All right, cool. So far we can go back to our project, and this is still using the, I think it's using the Opal Sans font. So we just need to go to our index.html file, and we'll call this Alex Carter. And on the body right here, we'll say the font should be Poppins. Now you can see Poppins. So if we check, fonts is not Poppins. So let me just be sure. So you can see we have the Poppins font showing. And while we're there, let's still add the background color. Say background gray 950. Then the text will be white. So if we check now, okay, this is nice. So we'll go back to this index.css file, and what we want to do now is I want to add a container class. So what this container class does is that it automatically creates some certain layouts as different breakpoints. So initially, let me show you in practice. So if I go back to my index, my app, the JSS file, and I change this to a container. So what this does is that it adds a max width at different breakpoints. So if we check now, you can see that following the breakpoints that I have, it's supposed to like start right here. So for that to be enabled, I think it's something they removed. We'll have to now tack on to the container class, and I'll add a margin inline of auto to center it left and right, and also add the padding of inline of 1 rem. So if I check now, you can see that this has moved. And I just realized that while I was doing this, this was supposed to be for different breakpoints. So this was supposed to be for medium, and this was supposed to be for large, and this would be for extra large. So if I save now, this should scooch back. But regardless of this mistake, if I still get rid of this, you will notice that it's still starting at the top, because it's not centralizing, it's just adding the max width there. So it's not centering it to the middle. So I'll just uncomment this back and save. Now everything is looking nice. So the last thing we'll be doing is to bring in the icons that we'll need. So the icon will be from Lucid Icon. Click on this guide and installation. So npm, copy this. So open our terminal, create a new tab or a new terminal, and paste in the command, hit enter. So it has been installed, and I think we are good to go. All right guys, that is about it for the setup. In the next video, we are going to build out the navigation section. So in the last video, we set up our React project using Vite, and we also installed TailwindCSS and configured it properly. So if you missed that video, be sure to check it out. In this video, we are going to be building the navigation section, and as you can see from the last video, this is what we still have. And the only thing I've done so far is I've brought in the assets that we'll be needing, and as well as the data we'll be needing for the different sections. So I will leave a link to a gist folder where you can have access to the assets and this constant.js file as well. So that's the only thing I've brought into the project. So what I will do right now is I'm going to split my screen into two. So let me do this very well, because I'm going to be going from the mobile first approach, and I'll also be making reference to the finished design. So the first thing we want to do is to create this section right here, and this is actually a component. So I'll quickly open my toolbar and create a new folder called components. Inside that folder, I will create the header.jsx file, say rfc. So if I save now, you see it's not showing. So for it to show right here, I need to go back to the app.jsx file, and I will get rid of this. I also don't need this class for now. So I can say header section, and here will be header. So you can see that the header is now showing right here. I can go back to the header now, and I will change this to use the semantic tags of header. I'll give this a class name. I'll set it to fixed so that it stays at the top at all times. Top should be 0. Give it a z-index of 500, and we'll set the width to 4. Alright, we'll come back to this and add more styling where we start to scroll. But inside now, we're going to create another div. And in this div, we're going to add our logo and the nav bar and the menu button. So for the logo, I'm just going to create another div for it. Inside this div, I'll create a tag. And this should just link to the home page. And we'll have a name of Alex. As you can see on the website, the cutter with the Alex has this primary gradient color. So to do that, we'll go back inside the a tag and create a span tag and put the cutter inside. I think it's uppercase. Then we'll give this a class name of bg gradient. I'll say to right from blue 600 to purple to purple 600. Then clip the text so that the background color is attached to it, and we'll set it to transparent. So you can see right here. Then for the a tag, also add some styles and we'll give it font of bold at medium devices and up. Also give it a text of white. And for the Tailwind style, I will just be adding the breakpoint as we move on. And for medium devices and up, we'll set the text to large. And for this, we just give this as index of 10. So the next thing is the navigation. So what we just do is that I'm going to create a component. So I will say navbar, and I'll quickly create it here. Say navbar.jsx rfce. And I will just import it so that it can appear right here. And the last thing is to create the menu buttons. So we can see menu buttons. I'll create a div. I'll give this div a class of text of white, z-index of 10, set it to flex. Items will be center, and on medium devices and up, we don't want to show the menu buttons. So we'll have two buttons. First one will be the X from Lucid icons, and we give this a size of 28, and the other one will be the align. So I'll copy this, I'll set this to align, left. So let's save. I just noticed that we are not seeing any content, so let me inspect and see what is going on. So I really don't, I think it's from here. Let me get rid of this first. See if that's causing the issue. So let's refresh. So the issue is coming from the way we installed Lucid icon. So it's supposed to be Lucid React. So what I will do is I will stop my timer now. Yes. Then I will go to my package to JSON file and I will get rid of this one and save and quickly do an npm I. So we've installed all the dependencies again. So I will say npm I lucid react. All right, it has been installed. So I'll close this and start my server again. Npm run dev. Make sure we are on the first terminal. All right, so we're getting an error from this Lucid, which is fine because we've uninstalled it. We'll just append the React one to it and we'll save. So now we can now see the icons. All right, cool. So let's move on. I think I can now add the right size to each of them here. So I can say 28 and this should be 28 as well. All right, so we'll come back to this first div and give it a class and add the container to it so that we'll add some spacing on the left and the right, and we'll also add a display of flex. Items should be center, justify should be between, and we'll add a py of 4. So for now, I'll just go to the nav bar and just hide it so that we'll style this one. So say hidden. And so now I want to just show only an icon. So this should be open at first, then once we click on it, a drawer should open, then this X should show. So we need a state to keep track of that. So I'll come right here and create a state, say const, we'll call that state is clicked and set is clicked. This will be use state and it's going to be false by default. So create a function to help us toggle between the states. So we say toggle nav click. This will be an arrow function. I will say set is clicked to whatever the current state is. So it's going to toggle it between false and true. So what we have to do is to pass it to our nav bar. So we say is clicked, and passing is clicked, and also passing the toggle nav click as well. Then for this, we can just come here and say on click, we're passing the toggle nav click, and for this, we can just use the is clicked to check if it's open or not. So we say if it's clicked, then do something else, do something. So if it's clicked, we want to show this X symbol right here. Then if it's the opposite, we want to show this. So now you're seeing this, and we need to add a class, and this should be cursor, set this to pointer, same thing here as well. And I think we have to redo this because this will be the main button that we actually click in. So I feel this should be the button, then this can just be it can just be on its own. We don't even need this anymore. So I think this will make more sense. Then we can just click between this and add the cursor pointer here. Yeah, this is better. We can also tap between both of them. So now I want to create the drawer, which is the navbar that opens when we click on this. I also need to make it responsive so that it shows at the ending on medium devices and up. So come here, and before it, I'm going to create an array of navigations to store all the navigations. And the first one will be title, home, and the URL will be home. So copy this 4 more times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and add a comma to them so we don't get errors. And this will be projects. Same thing here. This will be about. This will be skills. Skills, and this will be contacts. All right, we also need to pass in or accept these props that we are passing right here. So we'll say is clicked, and the other one was toggle nav click. I'll get rid of this class so that we can see it back. And let's just get rid of this entire div because we'll be creating 2 navigations. One will be for the mobile nav, and the other one will be for the desktop navigation. But both of them will be sharing the same array. So for this one, we'll just bring in the nav tag and add a class name and give it a class of fixed. Left will be 0, top will be 0. We'll set the height to 100 VH. The width should be 4. Set it to flex. Items should be center. Justify should be start. Justify start. Then we'll add the transition. So we say transition. Can't type. Set it to all and give it a duration of 500. And we don't want to show it on large screens and up. All right, so inside it we'll create an unordered list. I'll give this a class of height full. The width we set it to 60%. We use an arbitrary number here. Then for the background, it's going to be gray 900. Padding left will be 4. I'll add the padding top of 36. And the new updates on Tailwind version 4 is that you no longer need to add an arbitrary number for things like padding and margin. It's not that you can't. I can add 36 pixels, it's going to work. But this just calculates whatever values you have, which actually makes sense. So if I say 22, so 22 is not really part of the default spacing, but if you see what it does, it calculates the default spacing and multiplies it by the number it gives to it, which is 5.5. All right, so you can see we have this nice looking stuff right here. Then inside this UL, we'll map over the navigation. So we'll say navigation the map. I'll say for each item, we'll use an li, and we'll set the key to item.title, and we'll give it a class of MB4. Text should be large, the font should be medium, then we'll capitalize it so that the first letter should be uppercase. Then inside it we'll have an A tag, and this will go to the item.url. Then this will be item.title, if I'm correct. Yeah. Then for the class, we're going to give it a text of white, and while they hover, so when we hover over it, it should be text below 600. I also add the transition colors, and we'll set the duration to 300. I can also add the way it comes in, so we'll say is in. So with this now, when we hover on all this, you can see that everything is coming nice. So what we want to do is to keep track of if we actually click on this, because right now this state and this state are not actually working hand in hand together. So we'll come back to the nav and we'll change this back to backticks, and we can say using the dollar sign, and we can say if it's clicked, then we'll set the translate x to 0, else we'll set the translate to a negative number. So say negative translate x, and now I can use an arbitrary number, say 190.25, right? So if we save now, you can see that is gone, and when we open it now, see it's coming in, and when we close it, you can see it's going out. So we also need to keep track of the active link. So right now there's no active link, and we want this home link to be default. So to do that, we'll come here and add a state called active link. I'll say set active link. This will be use state. The default will be home. And while we're also there, we want to still add the ability of when a user scrolls, we want the active link to move as well. And the way to do that is by using the use effect, because we want to get the scroll position of the y-axis and each of the sections. So what we'll do is to create a use effect, and we want this to run only once, so this will be an empty array. Then inside this use effect, I'll create a function called handle scroll. This will be an arrow function, and we want to get the scroll position of the entire window. So we can do that by saying scroll position, set this to window dot scroll y. So y is basically the vertical axis, the entire window. And we want to also get the position of each of the sections. So I can do that by saying document dot query selector, or I want to grab all the section that have an ID. So if a section does not have an ID, it's not going to target that section. So we want to say, oh, this is wrong. So we say sections, and say for each section we want to do something. So we say, so first of all, we say if there is a section available, then we'll create a variable called section top, and we'll grab the section and get the offset. So we say offset top, and we also want to get the section height. So we say section offset height. So this first one is for getting the entire section of the viewport, and this section is getting the section from the top of the viewport to where the section actually starts from. So now with this we can say if the scroll position is greater than or equals to the section top, and if the scroll position is lesser than or equals to the section top plus the section height, then we want to do something. We just want to now set the active link to the section.id. All right, I hope that makes sense. Then what we just need to do is to make sure that we are outside the function, and we'll say window.add event listener. I want to listen for a scroll event because we'll be scrolling. Then we want to now call this handle scroll function, and we also need to clear out or remove the event listener to avoid memory leaks. So we say windows.remove event listener, and we'll set the position to scroll and handle scroll. All right, so with this now, once we have much content and we go to each of the sections, this will get active, but we need to activate that actually using this active link. So can come right here, and let's just do this. Let's just do this at the beginning. So this will be in curly brackets now because we want to add some states to it. So we use the $, and we say if the active link is equals to the item title. So remember, the active link is home and the title is home. So if both of them are the same, then we want to make sure that the text is blue 600, else just defaults to the default one, which is white. So let's check to see if that is working. If that is not working, because we need to pass this white right here, because it actually makes sense for us to pass it. So if the active link is equals to the title, make it blue, else make it white. So it should work now. Yeah, it makes more sense. And again, while we are still inside the A tag, we'll add a state to listen for a click. So on click, we just want to toggle the nav click. So when we click on this and select it, we want to like close the nav by default, which is what we want as well. All right, so the next thing now is to make it responsive for desktop screen. So I can now open this, and I can open this well. So for the desktop nav, we'll still need a nav semantic tags, and we'll give this a class of feeding by default. Then on medium devices and up, we'll set it to inline flex. Then inside it, create an unordered list and give it a class of flex and the gap of 10. And we also want to capitalize the text inside. Then we'll map over the navigation and say for each of the item. I'm kind of repeating what we did here, but the styling will be a bit more. So we set it to the li and give it key, should be title. Then for the class, we'll set it to inline block and give it a font of medium. Then inside the li tag, we'll have the a tag. I know what I would do. I would just copy this a tag that we have because it's almost similar. Then we no longer need this on click right here. So we save and we'll add some styles now. And for the styles, we can just set this to relative and we'll add an after pseudo class and set it to absolute because we want to add this underline you're seeing right here. So we'll set it to absolute. Then after pseudo class, we'll give it a bottom and we'll set it to, let's do an arbitrary number here. So we say negative 0.2 rem. Then after we set the left to 0, after again we'll give it a height. I'll set this to 3 pixels. After class again, we'll give it a width and set it to 20 pixels. Then the after class, we'll set the border radius to extra large. And for the after class, we also need a transition. So we say transition all. After class again, we set the duration to 300 and we set it to ease in. Then for the hover state, make sure you're still using the after pseudo class. So we set it to hover. Then for the hover state, we'll say hover after and we'll set it to bg blue 600. So let's check what we have so far. Oops. So if I go back, all right, that's fine. So when we hover on this, we want this line to fill up the entire space. So we can do that by just saying let's do it right here. So we say hover and we set the width to, sorry, this should be after. Then we can set the width to full. It should be 2L. So if we check now, yeah, this is nice. Okay, so but we want this to be at the default for the active link. So to do that, we just need to copy all these styles from here like so and paste it right here. So if we save now, it's not coming in because it should be full. So instead of this, we'll set this to be full. And we no longer need this hover state and this other ones as well. So let's check now. And I'm guessing we need to still add the background color to the after. So let's just do it here. So we say after, then we say bg blue 600. So this should fix it now. Okay, so the last thing we'll be doing on this navigation section is to add this backdrop filter when we scroll. So what we do is I'll go to the app and I'll just add some dummy data. So I can just say lorem 2000. I think this should be much. So if we go back now, we can scroll. Okay, so that's looking a bit ugly, but that's fine. Come back to the nav, or sorry, go back to the header. I want to add another state called scrolling. So we say scrolling and set scrolling. So we also create a function called handle scroll and we'll create a variable called scroll and we want to get the scroll position. I want to get the scroll property for the y-axis. So and what we'll do, and we'll just say if the scroll which is actually whatever property we get here. If it's greater than 100, then we want to set is scrolling. Set is, okay, this should be set is scrolling. So set is scrolling to true. Else, we just want to set is scrolling to false. And this won't really make sense because we want this to happen as a side effect. So what we just do is to put this inside a use effect that we run once as well. So paste it now. And we want to clean up this function. But first we want to listen to the add event listener. We listen for a scroll event and we'll call the handle scroll function. Then we can return and say window dot to remove event listener. I'll set this to scroll and passing the handle scroll. So let me go back and see if we added the remove one here. Okay, yeah. So now I want to check if we are scrolling on our web page, and like I said, it's only going to run just once. So we'll do that right here by adding the curly brackets and backticks like so. And we can say if we are scrolling, then we want to add a backdrop. So we say backdrop. I will add a blur. It should be blur. And let's just set it to small. Then for the gradient, we'll just set this to gradient to right. I'll say from neutral 900. We'll make this a bit faint by adding 50 to it to have a mixture of a lighter version of it. Then we'll also say to, then we'll say via the neutral, same thing, we'll say 900 and we'll add 50 to it. So you can play with these numbers. It's just something I came up with. So you can decide to go with what works for you. Then we'll say to gray 950, and we want it to animate in. So we'll say animate in, and the duration should be 500 milliseconds. Then else, we just want to make sure that the background is transparent, and the duration also should be 500, and we also want to animate it out. So say animate out. All right, so let's see if that's working. So if we scroll now, that is not working. So should I refresh? So let me get rid of this and refresh it again. So if we scroll now, you can see that we're having that nice backdrop filter. All right, that wraps up this lesson. In the next video, we are going to be building the hero and project section. So on the last episode, we built the navigation section. So if you didn't watch that video, I will urge you to watch that one so that you can follow easily what we want to do today. And in this episode, we'll be building the hero section, and this project section. So I will just shrink this down and do the same thing here. Because like I said, we'll be going from the mobile first approach. And I will go to my app and make sure I get rid of all these junks right here. All right, cool. So these are sections of the web page. So it would be ideal if you classify them or group them into a separate folder. So what I would do is I will create a folder called sections, and I will create the hero.jsx. So say RAFCE. And for this hero section, we just need to import the image. So I will import the image I will be needing. Hero image from assets, and this will be hero image.png. Then since this is a section, we use a section, and remember we add the ID and set it to home. I'll create another div right here, and I'll give this a class of zindex of 40 so that you'll be at the top at all times. Then again, I'll create a container class, and this will be your flex. Items will be center, justify, can't spell justify will be center as well. And we also want to center the text in the middle. And while we are there, let me just do this at the beginning. We also need the screen to be 100 VH. All right, so let me come back to the initial one. We still don't have anything here, so let's start adding content to this. So create another div, and I will not style this one as well. So this will hold the image. So we say hero image, and this we have text of hero image. So let's save. And nothing is showing right here because we also need to go to our app.jsx and add it to our app file. So we say hero section. All right, so let me refresh this. Don't know why we came across an error. So let me inspect and see where we are having issues from. Hero is not defined. Okay, we didn't define it. How silly that of me. All right, so it's showing nice now. All right, we can now see the image. Let's go back to the hero, and for this div, I'll give this a class of max width and set it to 800 pixels. You can decide to use the default one, the 2XL and the rest, but 800 seems perfect for what I want to do, and we also need to center it in the middle as well. Then we also need to add a margin bottom of 6, and for this image we'll give it a class of size 100 pixels. Then we also want it to be rounded, and we want it to be center as well. Then we'll give it a background gradient to right from blue 600 to purple 600. Let's see. Let's also set the object to cover. Then we'll make sure we're outside this. So let me just add a comment right here, say image. So make sure we are outside this and create another div to add this entire content right here. So we can set this to, let me first of all put content. So set this to an H1 that says what? Let me just copy the text, paste it right here, and the smooth had something similar to this. So instead of me typing it out again, I'll just go to the header section and I will copy this span and I'll just replace it here like so and change this to this smooth. So if we save, you can see that is coming. We just now need to add some style. So we'll see margin bottom of 2, text should be 3XL, font should be extra bold. We want it to be capitalized. We'll add a line height, I'll set it to 1.2. Then for medium devices and up, we increase the size to like 5XL. Then for the p tag, we just copy the text as well, paste it here, and the only thing we'll be doing is just adding a margin bottom of 4, and on medium devices and up, we increase the font size. And for this button, we use the a tag, and this should go to the project section, and this should be view. Let me just use uppercase view my work. And for the class, we just give it a padding left and right of 6, padding top and bottom of 3. We set it to inline block, set it to capitalize, add the font width and set it to semi bold. Then we'll also add this background gradient to right, and we'll say from blue 600 to purple 600, and we'll give this a text color of white, and we'll also add the border radius of medium. So let's check now. So both of them are looking almost similar. So now if we preview this on bigger screens, you can see that everything is working fine. So it's essentially the same with the original design, but I think this is a bit bold, but ours is not bold. So let me just quickly fix that. So go to the nav, and for the desktop, this should be, I think this should be done right here. So say font medium. Let me see. So let's try semi bold. Okay, this is much better. All right, so the next section we'll be building is the project section, and there's something common in this project. So you can see that we have this title section. You can see a repeating pattern here, a repeating pattern here, and a repeating pattern here. So you can see take this like a Figma design, but it's actually live because you are making reference to this. So it's a good thing when you are building, you should try to spot patterns easily, so you don't have to like create something multiple times instead of using a state and just passing in props. So in something like this, we'll come back and I will shrink this down again, and I will create the project section. So say projects.jsx, and I'll get rid of this. Then I think I will just show you how to build it first, then I will show the other alternative. So for this project, this will be a section. I'll give this an ID of projects, and we'll give this a class name of pt32, and this should be section. I don't know why this didn't change. Then inside this section tag, bring in the container, and we want to create this title now. So the way to do that is we'll put this inside the div, and this will be an h2. Copy this, I will paste it here. You already know that I will have something similar, so I will just go to my hero section and I will copy this smooth, and I will replace it with this, and this will be projects. So if we check, that won't show because we also need to add it right here. So we say projects section. So this will be projects. I will save, and you can see it right here. So for the heading 2, we will give this a class name. I will say this should be 2XL for the font size, make it bold, also add the margin bottom of 2. The medium devices and up, we'll set it to 3XL, and large devices and up, we'll set it to 4XL. So you can see that it's now bold, and I guess it's still, yeah, so we can make it capitalized as well. So let me put it right here. So capitalize. Then for the p tag, let me just copy the text and I'll paste it here, and I'll set the class name to have the text color of gray 400. So as you can see, it's showing right here. And in terms of I think this was centered in the middle, so we can just come here and say text should be center. All right. But before we move on, I would want to put this inside its own separate component because we'll be reusing it here and other sections as well. So it's used in this about section. Although it's on the left, we'll still look for a way to go about that. And you can see it's used here and it's also used here. So what I'll quickly do is I will create the title component, and I will say ROEFCE. Then I will copy or cut this rather, and I will paste it here. So we just need to accept some things. So the first one will be the title, the highlight. So the highlight is essentially this one. Then the subtitle, which is the subtext, and we want to check if its center is true, but by default we'll just set it to true, so it should always be centered. Then we will need to just replace everything. So for this one now, pass in the title, and for this we'll pass in the highlights. For this we'll pass in the subtitle. Then as for this is centered, we'll bring it here by using backticks. It should be backticks, and we can see if it's center, which is true by default, then we want to say text should be center, else we want to set it to the left. Then we don't need this anymore, and I'll also add the margin bottom of 6 right here, like so. All right, so to use it, we just need to bring in the title and pass in the prop. So the first one is the title, right, which is my, and this should be in a string, sorry about that. Then the highlight should be projects. Then the subtitle should be this subtitle. Let me copy it again and paste it right here and save. Guessing we have, okay, so if you come across this error, you just need to change the string to double quotes. So we can save this, and you can see that nothing really changed except we can just come right here and add this space stuff, as you can see. So this, we'll move this capitalized down here so that it affects both the highlights and the project section. You can save. So let me check why this is still project. I don't know why it's showing project. So let me use capital P here. Okay, it's now working fine. So now with this, we can just reuse this titles component all through the sections that needs it. So now we want to just keep on going with all these different projects. Remember that I already have everything on the constant file, which is inside the utils folder. So I can just come underneath this title, not the container, underneath the title, and I'll create a div and give this a class and set the space y to 10, and on medium devices and up also want to reset it back to 0. Then on medium devices and up again, we'll set it to grid and set it to 2 columns, and we'll also add a gap of 4, and on large devices and up, we'll set the grid to 3 columns. So inside this now, we just need to map over the project. So say projects, then we'll see the map, and we'll map over each project, and we'll use the, I'll create a div, and I'll give this a key of project.id. Then inside the project, we'll have the main image, which is the image right here. I'll just pass it and say project.image, and this should be project. Let's just use the title, yeah. Then for the styling, we just want to give it a rounded top right of 2XL and a rounded top left of 2XL. So we should see all of them. So it's adding a radius here and here. Then underneath it, we'll create another div. This is to hold the entire content now. We give this one a background of gray 900. We'll set the radius to rounded bottom right 2XL and rounded bottom left 2XL. Also add a px of 4 and a py of 6. Then inside it, we'll have the history that says project title. Then we'll style it and say should have a text of large, or let's just use X large. I'll set the font weight to bold and add a margin bottom of 2. Then underneath it, we'll bring in the p tag and just pass in the description. So we'll say project.description, and for the styling, we'll just add a line clamp. So we want to stop it at the 3rd sentence, as you can see. So 1, 2, 3. So it's going to stop at the 3rd sentence, and I just noticed that this is not coming in. So this should be 2XL, not 2L. Okay, now this is coming in. Then for still on the p tag, we'll add a margin bottom of 6 And for the tags, which are all these ones, create a div and give this a class name of MB8 and set it to flex, and we want to wrap it so that when we don't have space, it goes underneath each other. I'll add a gap of 2. Then inside it, we'll just map over each of the stacks. So say stack.map. And for each text stack, so I'll just call this tag. We'll have a span. And this we have a key. And I'll just pass in the tag as the key. Then we'll add the class name and set it to px of 2, py of 1, bg gray 800. I'll set the text to white, and rounded should be full. So we'll have the complete circle and add a margin bottom of 2. Then we just need to pass in the actual tag. So let's check if I have any errors. So there are no errors so far. Then what we just need to do is to shrink this back, and we need to now add the buttons. So for the buttons, we'll create another div and I'll give this a class name. Set this to flex. Items should be center, gap should be 4. So for the buttons, if we check the original project, you can see that this button is similar to this hero section. So I can just go back to my hero section and I will just copy this and I will paste it right here like so. But this time this will be project dot live URL. Sorry, this is not it should not be promised. So project dot live URL, and this text should be inside a p tag, and this will be live because this is not going to change. So the actual live and sources, they will just be there static. The only thing that is changing is the actual URL. So for this URL, we'll make sure it's being open on a new tab, setting targets to blank, and let's add some styling here. So I'll set the font to be semi bold, and before it we'll add the icon, and I will give this a size of 20. So let's check now. Okay, so we also need to add a display of flex to the main one. So this should be flex now. Items should be center. So let's save, and let's also add some gap. So let's say gap of like 2. All right, so let's check back. And I think the padding is too much here. So let me reduce this one to 4. Okay. Then the other one is the GitHub all sources link. So I will just copy this one down and I will paste this. The only thing that's changing is the background color. So there's actually no gradient. So we don't need all this anymore. I can only say this should have a background of gray 600. And when we hover on it, it should now have a background of blue, just blue 700. Then we need to add transition as well. So transition, of colors, and duration should be 300, and let's just add it, make it ease in. And this should be GitHub. Okay, this should be sources, and this now should be the source URL. So let's check back. This should be source, not sources. So let me save this again. You can see that this is working nice for each part. So if we take a look at it at the desktop view, you can see that this project now is being active. If we scroll up, you see that we're back to the home page. You can see that the home now is now active. So if we also do it at the mobile as well, and we scroll down, you can see that it's moving here as well. Alright guys, that's it for this episode. In the next episode, we'll be building the about and skills section. So in the previous episode, we built this hero section and the project section. So in this video, we're going to be building the about section and the skills section. So the first thing we'll be doing before actually building it, you can see that if I click on this project, it jumps to the project section, but we need a smooth scroll. So to do that, let me just go to VS Code, and I'll go to the index CSS file, and I will use the wildcard and say scroll behavior should be smooth. So now if I try this again and click on project, you can see that we now have that smooth scroll. So I will just shrink this to its tab and do the same like so. So the first thing we're going to do is to create this section for the about. So we'll go to the sections and we'll say about the JSX. I'll say RFCE and we'll save, but on our own page it's not showing. So what we need to do is to go to the app.jsx and bring in the about section. And by the way, if you don't want to wait until the end of the series before grabbing the code, you can click on the first link in the description to get the code. So you can now see that the about is coming in. So we just need to go to the about and we'll change this back to section because it's a section, and we'll give it an ID of about and give it a class. It should be inside. So we'll say class name of PT32 to add some spacing. So inside this section, we'll bring in the container class so that we can have some spacing on the left and right. And inside there, we'll bring another div. And inside this container class, we'll create another div which will be responsible for displaying these side by side. So we'll add a display of grid so that this will be at the left and this entire content will be at the right. So inside this div, let's just give it a class or style it first. So we say at medium screens, we'll add a display of grid. Then we'll set the grid to be grid calls or set it to 2. And also add a gap of 8 and items will be centered. Then inside the div, we'll create another div again and give this a class of MB8, and on medium devices and up we'll get rid of the margin bottom. I can now bring in the image, and I guess, what did I call it? So quickly import it and say about image from assets about image.jpg. All right, then we can just pass it right here, say about image, and this will be the about image. You can be more descriptive with yours. I'm just writing this out. So if we save now, you can see the image is coming in, so we just have to style it. So for the image, we'll give it a style and set the object to be cover, and the rounded, we'll just give it 2XL. Then outside this div, we'll create another div again, which will hold the title. So now the title will be title. So the title will be about, the highlights will be me, then its center will be false. So initially, remember, it was set to true, so we'll just default it back to false so that it will be at the left. So everything is coming nice. The other thing we want to do is to add the text. So I'll copy this, and before we paste this, we also need to add this subtitle. So let me do it right here and say subtitle, say get to know me better. So if we check now, we should see that right here. And now underneath it, we can now add the paragraph and paste it in. And I think there's some line height here, so we need to add line height by saying leading, and we'll just put it to 7. All right, cool. So I think that's about that for the about section. So if we check on our desktop view, you can see that it's already coming in, and we can also easily scroll down to it. So ignore this not highlighting because this is still in view, so the project is still in view, as you can see. So if this is out of view, that's when this will pop in. And when we add this skill section, you'll see that the about now will be highlighted, so don't worry about that. So for the skills section, I have to shrink this back, and we'll just come to the sections right here and we'll say skills.gsx, and we'll repeat the same thing, and we'll go to the app.gsx, and here we'll say skills section, and this will be skills. So if we check now, you can see the skills is coming in, and we'll have to go into the skills and change this to a section, give it an ID of skills, also a class of pt32 to add some padding to the top, and we'll bring in the container, and inside the container we'll bring in our title, and the title will be, I don't know why it keeps adding this curly bracket, so we'll say the highlights will be skills, and the subtitle, I think that's a bit long, so let me copy it from here. So copy it and paste it here. So again, we're having an error, which means we need to change this to double quotes right here. I'll also leave a link to this live website on Netlify so that you can also make reference to it as well. So this is now coming in, and underneath this title, we'll create another div, and we'll give this a styling of grid, and we'll set the columns to be 2 columns initially. Then on medium devices and up, we'll set the cols to 4, and we'll add a gap of 4 as well. Then on large devices and up, we'll set a grid equals to 8. Then inside this div now, we can map over our skills. Remember, our skills are inside this constant for file. So we can map through our skills and say each skill, we'll create a div, and we give this a key of skill dot id, and for the class, we give it a display of flex items with center, gap will be 2, and we'll say flex call so that it should go like in a horizontal form. Then inside this div, let's display the image to see that something is actually showing. So we can just say skill dot icon. Then we can just say skill dot name. So if we save now and check, you can see that everything is coming in, but they look quite big. So we'll add some styling. I will say the size should be 12. On over, we want to push it up by saying translate y, and we'll say 2, which is 8 pixels. I'll add a transition. So transition of transform. Then duration will be 500 milliseconds. Then ease in out. Then on medium devices and up, will increase the size to like 16. So if we check now, you can see that all of them have the same size. And if we hover on them, you can see that we'll have this nice effect. So underneath the image tag, we'll bring the span tag to pass in the actual name for each of the icon. So you can see the name, and the only thing we need to do is just to make it bold. So say font should be bold. So now if we preview on desktop screens, you can see that everything is now aligning properly. But the about supposed to be highlighted on this nav, but it's not working. So let me try it again. So we say about. Okay, still on the project. So let's try skills. Same thing. So to fix that, we'll just go to the about. I'll make sure the ID is actually working, because we can actually scroll into that. So we'll just go to the nav bar, and let's go through this again. So we're getting the top, and I think this should be less than, not equals to. So let's check now. So let me refresh this, and let's try it again. Still the same thing, so we still have to do more debugging. So we save the scroll position is greater than equals to. All right, so the issue is coming from here. This is supposed to be section top. So if I save this now and I try to scroll down there, you can see that it's actually working. And if this is out of view now, these skills will show, because it's not a view right now. So we can now check back. So I'm very sorry if you were trying to yell at me to correct this, but everything is working fine now. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. In the next episode, we are going to be building the contact section. So in this episode, we are going to be building the contact section. And in the previous episode, we built the about section and the skill section. So if we go to the deployed version, you will see how it looks. So I'll go back right here, and I will bring down my tools and drag this down a bit. Now open VS Code. Oh, you know what? Instead, I'll just stick to what we're doing. So I'll just push this by the side. Alright, so I'll go to my sections. I'll call this contact.gsx. Say RAFCE. Now I'll get rid of this one. I will change this to section and give this an ID of contact. I'll name this section. Alright, so inside it, we'll bring in the container class, and we'll bring in the title component that we've already created. So I think I need to open this. Alright, so I think we can now import it now. And this will have a title of contact. Then the highlight should be me. And we'll set the center to first. Then the subtitle as well should be get in touch with me. So if we save now, nothing is going to happen, but we just have to go to our app.jsx file and bring it in. So we say contact section, say contact, this one. And if we save now, you can see that we have it right here. And we also need to come right here and add a class. Set this to have a padding top of 32. Alright, so we need to create another div. It should be a div, and this div is going to have a class name. I'll set it to grid on desktop screens and up. Still set it to have grid close of 2. I will set it to have a gap of 16. And inside here we'll pass in the form. So the form will be a separate component on its own. So we just, let me quickly just create that now. So say form JSX, say RFC. Let me close back my site tab and cut this out. So now we can go to our contact and I can import this for now, like so. Then I need it to have a div, and this div will just be responsible for this entire section right here. So give this div a class of MB16 and a margin top of 8. And here also bring another div and give it a class of margin bottom of 2. Set it to flex. Also want to set it to flex wrap. Items will be center. Justify will be start. If I can spell justify well, so justify start. Then add a gap of 2. And inside that div, we'll bring in the phone emoji or the phone icon, and we'll give it a class. I'll set the size to 5. And since this will be displayed side by side, so this and this, we just need to come here and bring in the anchor tag. So we say this should not go anywhere, but this should have this phone number. So let me just quickly copy the phone number. By the way, this phone number is not a real phone number though. We give this a class name and set it to text large. Font will be semi bold. Transition will be colors. Duration will be 300. Then on hover, we set the text to blue. It should be text to the blue 600, which is our primary color. 600. So save, and if we check now, you can see it's looking nice. And we're going to repeat the same process for the email as well. So I will just copy this and paste it here. Then I will change this to mail, and this should be mailed to this email. You can paste that right here, and let's also not forget to import our mail. So we can save, and if you want to be explicit, you want it to direct to an actual mail, and I think I'll do this on the phone number. You can just come right here and set this to mail. I want it to mail to this email right here. So I just paste it like so. While this one, we set the tail and add the phone number like so. So now if you're on the phone, it's going to just automatically make the call. So let's save and see what we have. All right, and for this part we just need these social icons right here. So we can come underneath and create another div and give it a class of flex wrap. Items will also be center, justify. Can't type today for some weird reason. Justify should be start. Gap should be 4 as well. Then inside here we'll have an A tag, and this should not go anywhere. And inside this A tag we'll have the Facebook icon. So this one, I'll give it a class, and the size should be 6. And for the styling, we just say on hover we want it to move up, so negative translate y and just use 2. Then on hover we also want the text to be the blue color, and we want the transition to be all, and we also want the duration to be like 300, and we want it to ease in out. So again, I'll copy this and I'll paste this 2 more times. So this next one will be for Instagram, and this last one will be for Twitter. So we can save this right now, and if you hover on it you can see it's going up, but we need some spacing underneath this. So I will come here and increase the margin to like 4. Yeah, I think this is okay. All right, cool. So let's just create the form. So I'll go to the form component, and this now will be a form. And remember I said we'll be hooking it with the netlify form. So I'll be adding some attributes right here. All the attributes I will be adding are from the netlify docs in order for our form to work properly. So the first one will be name. So we just call this contact, and I'll just call this version 1. But you can also call it contact. I just like to name mine like so that when I change something I can just change the version as well. And the method will be post, because we're actually sending the data. And there's this data netlify attribute. So see data netlify, I will set it to true. And inside this we need to add an input tag, and this type will be hidden, and the name of this will be the form name. We just give it a form name. And now the value should match this, should be exactly what you added for this name. So in our case the value now will be contact v1. So this right here has to do with grabbing the input from what the user enters and syncing it up with the netlify forms. But as you can see, we don't have anything yet, so we just need to create our own fields right now. So I'll create a div and give this a class of mb4. Inside it we'll create a label, and this label will be for name. This will be name. So we'll give this a class name of mb2. For this to work we need to set it to inline block. Also make it a bit bold. Let's save. Now we have a name, so we need an input now. The ID now will be name. I also need the name attribute so that we can grab the value that the user enters, and this time the name will also be name. Then we also want to make it required, so we can save. And for the class name, let's just set this to a height of like 45 pixels, width should be full, make it a bit round, add some border radius of small, add the background color of BG slate 900, and add the padding left of 4. So if we save now, see we have a form. So if we click on this now, our form should also alight, as you can see right here. So again, we'll repeat the same process for the email. So I'll copy this and I'll paste this right here, and I'll change this to email, and this should be email. This should also be email. The type now should be email, then the name is going to be email. So can I enter an email right here? And the last one will be for the message. So this is a bit different. I'll just copy this right here, and this should have a class name of mb4, and I'll paste this one that we just copied, and this should be message. Then this should be for message. We'll leave the rest as they are. Then instead of us using an input tag, we'll be using the text area. So text area is that big box that you can adjust to whatever size you want to. So if we go back to our own local project, and for the name we'll set it to message. The ID as well will be message. If I can type properly again, then we'll add the columns of like 30 and add the rows of 10. So let's see. Then for the class name, I think we should just, it's still similar, so we can copy this right here and I can just paste it like so. Only that we just need to get rid of this height of 45 pixels. Alright, so it's looking like the original one. Then what we need to add now is this button right here. So we can come right here and underneath the form, create the button, and this should be send message. This is going to have a class name, and I think we've created this button before, so yeah, something like so. So we can go to our hero, and I should have also made it a component, but we're already fine, so I can copy this and go back and just replace it like so right here. So if I save now and come back, you can see that this is already looking like what we want right here. So we just need to add a cursor of pointer. So by the time we click on this now, it should tell us to enter our email. And remember, you need to make everything required. So do the same here as well. Make this required. So for the footer now, which is this last part right here, I can just create a separate component for that. So we say footer.gsx, say rafce, and we'll change this to footer. I will give this a class name and quickly change this to footer as well. And this should have a class name of padding top of 32, padding bottom of 6, and we want everything to be at the middle. And inside like so, we'll also create the container class, and for the text I will just copy this right like so and paste it here. And for this we just need to just add a margin bottom of like 2, and we want this date to be dynamic, we don't want it to be static. So I'll just clear that out and we'll say I'll just accept this. So this is just the method to get the current here, so it changes by the year, so we don't have to manually do it by ourselves. So So I will save this, and for it to work, we need to make sure that we're importing it on our app.jsx file. So I'll save footer, and if I check now, you can see that's coming in, and on desktop screens, everything is looking nice. So let me expand this. And the last thing we'll be doing on this episode is make sure that the forms will work perfectly when we deploy. And in order for us to achieve that, we just need to go to the contact, then go to the forms. And remember, we just did this, but in terms of React, we need to still create a separate form that netlify will read from, because this is the index page, and the way it's structured in netlify with React, you have to repeat similar process right here. So I'll quickly do that. So just inside this body right here, I just say contact from handler. Then we'll also create a form like so, and we'll get rid of the action. The name of this form will also be similar to what we've created, say version 1. Then the data will be netlify, and we'll set it to true. Then I also add a third attribute this time. So this is netlify honeypot, and we'll set it to bot field. So what this does is that it basically helps in preventing spam messages. That's what this attribute is for. And inside this form, I'm too lazy right now, so I will just copy this and we'll paste this right here like so. And inside here, we'll create another div, and I'll add the hidden to this, the hidden attribute to it, and we'll pass in the input for the bot field, and this now should be name. And lastly, we need to hide all the types for all this. So essentially now we'll be creating everything again like so. So we can say input, the type now will be hidden, but the name will be name, and we'll copy this 2 more times. This will be email, while this now will be the text area, but it will still be hidden. So we can now get rid of this one, and this should be double D, and the name now should be message. You can save. So this is where the magic really happens, and to the best of my knowledge, this is more like the backend that makes this form works. So I think all the data will be collected right here, and the same thing is also happening right here. So this is where we're actually sending the data to our netlify forms. So we can now go back to our page and make sure that we don't have any errors, and I think we have one. So okay, there's a quote right here, so let me go back right now. I'll also have another error, and I think this has to be a closing text area right here. So let's see now. All right, so everything is working fine. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. In the next episode, we are going to deploy our portfolio website to netlify, and we'll also make sure that our form is working properly. All right, guys, so we've come to the final episode in this series, and in this episode, we'll be deploying our website to netlify. So the first thing we're going to do first is to make sure that our project is stored on GitHub. So we can do that by going back to our code. I'll open my terminal and go to a new tab, and we initialize GitHub by saying git init. Then we'll add all our projects right here, and I can go back and just go to my repo. So click on create new repo, you get directed to a page that looks like this. I'll give it a name. I'll call it Carter Alex, and I'll leave mine at public. You can decide to leave yours as private, and we'll just create repository. So I'll scroll down and I'll copy all this command right here, and I'll also commit our project. So git commit, and I'll say first commit. I'll paste in the commands that we copied. So I'll hit enter. So it's done. I can clear my screen now and I'll go back and refresh. All right, so our project is done on GitHub. So what we have to do next is to go to Netlify, and you can access that by going to netlify.com. I already have an account, but if it's your first time, you should just sign up, and the sign up process is easy. So I'll click on login. So I'm already logged in now, and I will click on add new site and import an existing project, and I will select GitHub. And if this is your first time, it should tell you to authorize you to put your password. So I'll quickly search for the project. I called mine Carter. I can type Carter. So it's this one right here. So select it and let's give it a site name of Carter Alex. Let's check if it's available. So it's available. So leave all these steps and just click on deploy Carter Alex. So our site deploy is in progress, and I'll come back once it's done. All right, so our website is live. So let me just get rid of this one. I can open this one and bring it right here. All right, so we can toggle between the different sections and everything is working fine. So the only thing that is not working right now is the forms. So before we test it out, I will go back to Netlify and I'll go to forms right here, and I will enable form detection. So now that the form detection is enabled, we need to go to deploys, and I will quickly trigger a new deploy. All right, so it has been published, so we can go back here and refresh our website again so we can test it out. So let me say John Doe, say John Doe at gmail.com. I'll say testing to see if this worked, and hit on save, and you can see that our form submission has been received. We can go back to our site, and if we go to deploys now and go to forms, you should see the form right here. So you saw the text, and you can also delete the submission as well. And you can also see that we have an extra spam prevention enabled because of, where is that? Okay, so because of this Netlify honeybot feed right here and this. So the last thing we want to do is to also send a notification to our email once we get a message from a client, because we don't want to come to our Netlify dashboard to check our submissions every time. So to do that, we'll go to our site configuration and we'll go to emails and webhooks under notifications, and then we'll go to the form submission notifications and click on add notification and select this email notification right here, and want to listen for submission events, and this email right here is the email you want to notify. So I'll put mine and say lawrence6@gmail.com. Then you can also add the custom subject line, but I will leave that to you. Then for the form, you can see that we have a contact v1. So it depends on the form that you have. If you update your form to v2, you will see v1 and v2. So select v1 and save. And so anytime I do stuff like this, I just like to trigger new deploys just to ignore any issues that may arise. So it's currently deploying. I'll be back when it's done. All right, it has been published. So let's refresh again. I'll go to contact and let's test it out. So we say um, John Mark this time, and this will be johnmark@gmail.com. So let's say, hope you are subscribed, and let's hit on send message, and our form has been received. So first of all, before we check our mailers, also ensure that we got it right here. So we have 2 submissions right now. So if we go to our mail, and if I refresh, you can see that the form submission also came in. So John Mark, the email, and hope you are subscribed. All right, cool. All right, guys, so we've come to the end of this series, and by following this series, I hope you now have a solid portfolio templates that you can customize to showcase your work and your skills. And as promised, the link to the GitHub repo is now available for free, and you can find the link in the description below. But one thing we as developers find tiring is that after we've added like 3 projects to our portfolio, we find it difficult to update the content. Luckily for you, I have created a tool called Portfolio Kit, which will help you combat this situation and also help you set up and launch your portfolio website effortlessly and have access to tons of customization. I'll leave a link in the description to check it out if you're interested. With that being said, I'll see you in the next video.